All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So Bucky Brooks of the NFL Network just released his third mock draft of the offseason. Let's take a look at the top 10 and see who he has the New York Jets selecting with that 10th overall pick. So first things first, he is the Chicago Bears going with Caleb Williams. No surprise here. But moving on to spot number 2, he is the Washington Commanders going with Jaden Daniels. Now, there was this story or, small little rumblings suggesting that JJ McCarthy can now be in play for the second overall pick with Washington here. Supposedly the Vegas odds jumped up a significant amount. We'll see how it plays out. But I got to be honest, I think Washington, if you listen to new GM Adam Peters, it really felt like he doesn't know. He doesn't know exactly what direction that the Commanders are going to be going in, and that's fine because we still have a month. Right, they're still doing their homework. They're all the pro days are kind of taking place this week or last week. There's still data to be collected. There's still private workouts to be had, and official visits. So to be honest, I don't think Washington has made up their mind. But in my opinion, Jaden Daniels really brings a lot to the table, right? If you are a team that's landing Jaden Daniels and you just go down a simple checklist of what he brings to an organization, I mean, he gives you a strong arm, he gives you great accuracy, he gives you good decision making, he gives you deep ball accuracy, which is super, super important, right? A lot of guys can be accurate within 5 to 10 yards, but who is accurate 40 yards down the field? Jaden Daniels, right? He brings you that. He gives you an extremely, an electric quick release, which you can just do so much with that. That is an absolute luxury to have a release that fast, that lightning fast. It is so much fun to watch. So I think based just off of that, you're getting a lot, but then you just, factor in some of the college numbers, the TD to INT ratio, the completion percentage, the cherry on top is the Heisman Trophy, right? And then you're looking at him as a dual threat guy, right? What he can do on the ground. I mean, man, he's, again, electric as hell. That's probably my favorite, term to use when describing Jaden Daniels. The release, the arm strength, the deep ball accuracy, the mobility, the college stats. He does really give, in my opinion, you a lot as a franchise from the quarterback position. So again, I think Washington, and look, if Washington goes with Drake May or, in a different position, I still think they would obviously be getting an upgrade at the position. But I think if I was Washington, I would be probably leading Daniels right now. Okay, wow. Next up here at spot number 3, Bucky Brooks has the Patriots going with JJ McCarthy, quarterback from Michigan. I gotta be honest here, I'm not the biggest fan of this pick, right? I think for me personally, I prefer Drake May. I think Drake is the better quarterback prospect in my mind. And then number 2, you're looking at the New England Patriots right now. This is pretty much the opposite situation that he had at Michigan, right? Where Michigan didn't rely on McCarthy week in, week out to will them to victory. It wasn't the case, right? He had a stacked offensive line, a fantastic running game. You have Jim Harbaugh running the show. And granted, AVP is a former quarterback and has been around the game for a long, long time. But when I look at New England, I just don't feel like this is a team that's really going to give McCarthy a lot of help at the wide receiver position, a lot of help on the offensive line. I love Ramondre Stevenson, but, the Pats couldn't really run the ball all that well a year ago. Does that all magically change? This go round, with AVP in the building, potentially, I guess you can't rule it out, but, you're looking at just the overall talent level on the offensive side of the football. It's just not really, there's not much to write home about, right? Unfortunately for New England here. So, you're going to be taking a quarterback who's used to having so much talent around him now go to a team with arguably the worst offensive supporting cast in the NFL. So, I guess you can maybe push back and say, well, hold on, New England signed Jacoby Brissett, so you can roll him out there for a year, have McCarthy sit on the bench. They do have a high second round pick and a high third round pick and what have you. So you could theoretically fill out the roster, right? Go out and select a receiver in the second round. Go out and add, a tackle, in round 3 and start filling out the roster like that, which is totally, totally fair. But again, when I'm thinking about especially teams here up at, teams in the top 10, I think New England is probably the team with the least amount of help on the offense side of the football. Okay, at pick number 4, he has the Cardinals going with Marvin Harrison. Pretty normal stuff here. Again, not much explanation needed. In this one, you got to give Kyler a weapon. Okay, at pick 5 here, he has the Chargers going with Joe Alt, tackle from Notre Dame. This pick is super interesting, right? This is kind of like a pivoting point in the draft because the Chargers could really go in a bunch of different directions. Obviously, they need help at right tackle, but they traded Keenum, they cut Mike Williams. Herbert doesn't have a wide receiver 1, right? I like Palmer, I like Johnston, but if you're Justin Herbert, they didn't bring back Gerald Everett. He signed of course a deal with the Chicago Bears. If I'm Herbert, ideally, I would want like a number 1 wide receiver. Malik Nabers is sitting here right on the board, and the question with Joe Alt, nobody questions his play, nobody questions his leadership, nobody questions him as a guy, as a teammate, but he's never played right tackle, right? So that's kind of the big question mark. Do you pass on wide receiver to take a left tackle to then play him at right tackle? Now Harbaugh's style of play is going to be probably run first, build the offensive line. We all know the importance of the offensive line, so I could definitely see something like this playing out for sure. Okay, at spot number 6 here, he has the Giants going with Malik Nabers. Slam dunk pick in my opinion, right? Malik Nabers immediately would be the best wide receiver on the team. You're getting Daniel Jones, who I would consider a question mark at this point. You're getting him a top premier weapon. He's going to add explosiveness. He's going to add pop. He's going to add speed and playmaking ability to a Giants offense that really didn't have a ton of that last season. But now this is an offense without Saquon Barkley, who was, the team's most explosive player. So in my opinion, it's not just, we need a wide receiver. It's, we need to get more speed. We need to get more playmaking. And Nabers, to me, checks all of those boxes. Okay, at pick 7, he has the Titans going with Olu Fashanu, tackle from Penn State. I feel like the Titans are in such a good position. If you're a Titans fan, you're watching this football team, make a change at head coach. They're adding all these different premier free agents. Like Cushenberry is so underrated. Of course, Calvin Ridley's kind of the big name acquisition here, the big name signing. Who else? L'Jarius Sneed at corner. This team is really doing a lot. They're adding a lot of pieces, but tackle, they actually got rid of Andre Dillard, but left tackle is the interesting, massive vacancy on the offensive line. But the way the draft board is probably going to pan out, or at least according to the draft insiders here, they have a very, very good chance of landing one of the top 2 left tackles. It's not like a Charger situation where you're going to have to be moving the guy's position. Fashanu or Alt would come in and be a fantastic upgrade for that Titans offensive line to pair right next to Skoronski, who was the 11th overall pick last year. So I love this pick for the Titans. You got to keep Levis upright. You have to. Okay, at pick 8, he has the Atlanta Falcons going with Dallas Turner, edge rusher from Bama. I love this pick. I think first and foremost, Dallas fits the Falcons system. Right, as an edge rusher. He is extremely athletic. He's coming off a highly decorated career at Alabama. I think he projects well to the next level. The Falcons need pass rush. They have, some premier, young offensive skill players that I feel good about. And you factor in that they signed Darnell Mooney to a 3-year contract, and of course Kirk Cousins. I'm not really too worried about the offensive side of the football, but again, with a defensive-minded head coach coming in, Raheem Morris, especially a guy coming in from LA, who has had the luxury of seeing an excellent group of pass rushers in his time there, Leonard Floyd, Aaron Donald, Von Miller, there was an emphasis on getting after the quarterback. That's how the Rams really had a lot of success on defense. But the Falcons don't really have a lot of those top tier edge rushers. And in my opinion, if Turner fits that system, then I would definitely take a chance here with that 8th overall pick. Okay, at 9, he has the Chicago Bears going Rome Odunze, wide receiver from Washington. Now, I understand this pick, right? It's kind of the opposite situation that Fields had, right? Where the Bears are kind of looking at it like, man, Fields had barely anything to work with while he was here. We're not going to let that happen to Caleb, we have DJ Moore. We're going to go out and sign DeAndre Swift, sign Gerald Everett, trade for Keenan Allen. We're going to draft Rome Odunze at 9. We are going to make sure, Darnell Wright, top 10 pick last year, we are going to make sure that Caleb has enough help around him, 100%. We're not going to leave any doubt out there. We're not going to, leave stones unturned. Well, if Caleb had more help, or if Caleb had a slot receiver, or if Caleb, had a better running game, we're going to eliminate all those question marks. I understand that completely, but I do feel like with the 9th overall pick, you're drafting Caleb at 1. I think for Matt Eberflus, it's going to be really, really important to find another edge rusher opposite of Montez Sweat. Sweat was a baller, right? But they signed Kevin Byard at safety. They already have Tremaine Edmonds. They locked up Jalen Johnson at corner. Jaquan Brisker's there. Kyler Gordon is there. Got a couple young pieces. I feel like the Chicago Bears could go with Jared Verse from Florida State, somebody who fits that system really well. Somebody who would give the Bears a win now piece opposite of Sweat to affect the quarterback position, to affect, offensive line protection. I think Jared Verse makes a ton of sense, but I'm not going to sit here and say, Rome Odunze is the wrong pick here for the Bears or anything like that. Whether the Bears go with another defensive end, whether they go with, Odunze or a wide receiver, I really feel like Chicago is kind of in a win-win position. Okay, pick number 10 here, he has the New York Jets going with tight end from Georgia, Brock Bowers. Now, I think there's no denying that if the Jets add Brock Bowers, they're a better football team, right? The New York Jets are a better football team with Brock Bowers than without him. I also think that he would be the best tight end on the team. I feel like you can't really argue Brock Bowers' ceiling, right? He has the potential to be a really, really good NFL pro. He's a pass-catching, dynamic, explosive, playmaker at the tight end position. Somebody who is being talked about as one of the best tight end prospects in a long, long time. I mean, think about all the great ones out there: Kittle, Hawkinson, Travis Kelce. Nobody was talked about like Brock Bowers was, right? When you think about like guys that are talked about really high as draft prospects, you think of like again, Hawkinson, Noah Fant. Eric Ebron was considered like a hot commodity back in his draft. I believe that was 2012, 2013, 2014, somewhere in that range. But the bottom line is the Jets would be a better football team with Bowers. He would take pressure off of Garrett Wilson, pressure off of Breece Hall out of the backfield. He would give Rodgers, in my opinion, a premier threat over the middle of the field, somebody who you can really dial up a lot of different packages for, you can put Bowers in a bunch of different situations to free him up. I feel like, he's really going to help out in the passing game. But the pushback here is that the Jets' offensive line does not have depth, right? We just don't have if Tyron Smith were to go down, we have a major concern at left tackle. If Morgan Moses were to go down, we're now in the Max Mitchell, Carter Warren debate, right? So I think the argument here is Brock Bowers versus offensive line versus wide receiver. Now, I know the top 3 receivers are off the board here, but personally, I'm a big fan of Brian Thomas. I think he's being underrated throughout this entire process. I think he's going to be a great NFL pro. And then, of course, the other kind of underlying debate is if we look at how the draft board played out, guess who's still on the board? Drake May. Drake May is still on the board here. Now, of course, this looks to be a mock draft without any trades, so I don't know if this was done on purpose, but if Drake May is on the board at spot number 10, do the Jets consider it? I think as a general manager, the responsible thing to do would be to think about it, right? At least, in the month leading up to the NFL draft here, I think we literally have a month to the day. You need to be prepared and put yourself in every single situation possible, every single hypothetical situation before the NFL draft, so that way you're not caught off guard, that way you're not freaking out when you're on the clock. So in Bucky's mock here, we got Bowers on the board, we have Fuaga on the board, we have Drake May on the board, we got Brian Thomas on the board. Here's the silver lining. No matter who the Jets were to pick here in this situation, we're a better football team. Right now, I know you can kind of make that argument with every single position, but let's say you draft Brock Bowers, right? Just like Brooks is doing here. You're getting the best tight end prospect to come out in a long, long time, somebody who's going to come in as tight end one, a huge upgrade over the middle of the field, and you're getting Rodgers another weapon. You want to draft Talise Fuaga? Fantastic. You're going to be getting a franchise right tackle to step in for Morgan Moses after he leaves in free agency, right? What if Morgan Moses has another injury? Misses time this season. Fuaga, you have a premier bookend tackle to step right in, who, in my opinion, excels in the running game and will excel in the running game at the next level. You want to go with Drake May, right? Maybe he's not going to help the team out this season, but you are literally putting Drake May in a major position to have success, to learn behind Aaron Rodgers, to have the stopgap with Tyrod Taylor there, two veteran QBs that have seen so much football. They've seen so many defenses. In the case of Tyrod Taylor, he's been a part of numerous offenses with numerous teams. The amount of football knowledge, the amount of quarterback knowledge that's shared between Aaron Rodgers and Tyrod Taylor. Could you imagine being Drake, man, walking into a situation like that and saying, man, I got like elite mentorship right here for an entire year. I'm not going to play. And you're also looking ahead to the 2025 roster, right? This is another draft class loaded into the squad, another free agency class loaded into the squad. So Drake May, whether he, would be stepping in 2025 or 2026, he would have a fantastic supporting cast around him. Premier running back, Garrett Wilson on the outside. Who knows what happens with Mike Williams if he has a great year and re-ups. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. The point is, the Jets have, in this hypothetical situation, the Jets can go in a bunch of different directions, and I feel like you can make arguments why that player, X-player, was the right pick. And all of them would bring positives to this football team. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, go Jets.